rejuvenation. As we all know, eyes behold the attraction on the face. Eyes are the main thing which attracts someone towards your face. There are many age-related factors which affect eyes. The thin skin around the eyes being the main thing which leads to this. So we used to have patients for blepharochalasis complaining that they want a better look. Then patients used to come, even male patients, with worry lines, and they used to say that we have these lines and I want to do something about it. And we all know we have young patients which want something to be done to their eyes so that they can beautify themselves up, use some makeup on their eyes. So the Asian blepharoplasty, which we all know. So we are seeing that the trends are changing. There is desire to look young. Now the treatment is more readily available and is more acceptable, and society is more aware of it. And there is little more disposable per capita income, so people are trending towards it. And there is a shift now from surgical to non-surgical procedures, especially since the fillers have started to come. And there's want to look more natural. More men are coming in for procedures, and younger women are now seeking treatment. It is not that now I'm 50, so now I should try to look like 30. So they start at 30 so that they keep looking like 30 till their 60s or 70s. They want this now. And there is growing acceptance, as I said, towards aesthetic treatment. It is not that you get a rhinoplasty done or any non-surgical procedure done and you say, no, I just look like this. I never got anything done. It's not like this. People say, yes, I got it done. I got it done like this. From here, it took so much time. This was the downtime. Don't do this and do this. So people are discussing these things also now. The American Society of Plastic Surgery, 15.9 million cosmetic procedures were recorded in 2015. This is the largest data available till now. Next 2020 it will come. And 14.2 million were non-surgical. So the non-surgical procedures consisting of neuromuscular injections, that is Botox, botulinum injection, and fillers are the most common now. The non-surgical aesthetic treatments like botulinum toxin, dermal fillers, chemical peels, layer hair removal, and microdermabrasion. And Botox or botulinum forms the 47% of all the treatments. There is a considerable high increase in use of botulinum toxin and fillers since year 2000, as has been noticed. Because of ease of procedure, fear of surgery and anesthesia is not there. Patients don't want scars on their face, obviously. It is in their budget, and lack of available downtime. One more thing is they are kind of reversible. The effect of Botox will go after some time, kind of fillers, the effect of fillers will also go back after some time. So you can always counsel the patient that get it done. If you don't like it, in any case, you're going to become the way you are now in some time. So it is linked to its non-permanent nature, actually. I'll skip all this. It's becoming so. There is increasing employment opportunities in now South Asian countries and higher disposable incomes, as said. So that's why there's demand for aesthetic procedures, which has increased now. Just want to skip all this. So botulinum toxin actually was once touted as a poison, but it's now safe and effective medicine. And as a poison, the dose of botulinum toxin should be very high as compared to what we give. We do not inject more than 50 to 100 units in a patient, and the toxic dose is around 5,000 units. So we need not worry. And as we were discussing yesterday, that if we take one tablet of paracetamol, and the toxic dose is 20 tablets of paracetamol. So we take paracetamol so easily, like we take it almost once a week also we can take paracetamol. And the toxic dose of botulinum toxin is like 1,000 times more than what we inject. And we are scared of getting botulinum toxin done. It has 8 antigenically distinguishable exotoxins, and type A is the most potent. It is easily producible in culture, highly purified, stable and crystalline form, and has longest duration of action. The mechanism of action we all know. I think we can skip this here. And the peak paralytic effect on the patient will come after 4 to 7 days clinically, and after doing botulinum toxin injections, call the patient for follow-up after 10 days or around 2 weeks. I usually call around 2 weeks because that is the time when you can see the best result, and the effect will go in on an average 3 months. That is it. So there are collateral axonal sprouts which emerge and extend towards the neuromuscular junction, establishing its efficacy again. That's why the effect is reversible. Also, there is formation of humoral antibodies leading to decreased effect of the toxin over time. That's why you must always give the smallest dose which is required for that patient, because you need to repeat it every time, and the time interval between injections should be maximized. Even for your blepharospasm injections, this should be the same. You must give the smallest dose at which blepharospasm is stopped, and the patient should be advised to do some pranayama and yoga, maybe if it helps to prolong the duration between the two sittings of injections for blepharospasm also. So commercially available, I use Botox, no financial interest. There is MyoBlock available and Dysport also available. Botox comes in a sterile, vacuum-dried, purified extract of botulinum toxin type A, produced from fermentation of Hall strain of C. botulinum. And this dried toxin A has to be stored at -5 degrees Celsius until it is reconstituted. Reconstitution for 100 units vial, if you reconstitute it with 2 ml, it will give 5 units per 0.1 ml of injection. So you can formulate something for yourself which you find helpful. I initially started with 4 ml in 100 units vial. Now I am putting 2.5 ml in 100 units vial. So basically my practice has changed a little bit, but you can just start with a low dose and then go with higher dose later. So methods of reconstitution. This is a 50 units vial. This is how it comes. Very easy to open. Take out the vial, check for the batch number, etc. You must always write the date of opening the vial, although we don't use it later, but now it's a practice. It has been seen that for 7 to 10 days initially, or 2 weeks, nothing happens. You can use the Botox within 2 weeks. So reconstitute it with normal saline. Don't use distilled water because it will pain when injected. And when you, as seen in the video, when you inject the normal saline, since the vial is vacuum dried, the normal saline goes automatically in. That is also a check that the Botox has been produced, and checks that it has not been opened initially, because actually you can't see that dried Botox in the vial. It looks empty. Contraindications, obviously neuromuscular junction abnormalities. Do not use Botox. Don't use Botox in patients who are having pregnancy or areas of active infection, known hypersensitivity to ingredients, and egg allergy, as Botox has albumin. So we use Botox for facial wrinkles, both dynamic and static, but static obviously will be helpful more with fillers, not with Botox. As seen, this male patient has these, because of frontalis muscle overaction over the years, and these worry lines in between the eyebrows. This lady also. And aging does all of this. This is most common to get horizontal lines, crow's feet. Before you start, take an informed consent. Temporary nature of the correction must be explained, and precise documentation of treatment site and dose should be done. General injections: apply Prilocaine, Prilox to the skin, give ice packs, avoid chemosis and pain. Ecchymosis can be avoided by injecting subcutaneously where the skin is thin, and avoid fine subcutaneous vessels. Cooling the skin before and after the treatment will also help. When you are injecting and when you are documenting, taking the pictures of the patient, ask the patient to contract, come in animation, and then inject, because it helps in effective uptake of the toxin. Our aim is to weaken the muscle and not paralyze. Patients are assessed, as I said, 2 weeks after the injection. So these are the glabular frown lines. The muscle will contract vertically and will produce, the frontalis muscle will contract vertically and will produce horizontal lines, and the glabular frown lines, as we can see here, are produced because of contraction of the corrugator supercilii procerus muscles. These are the injection sites. I'll be showing this video quickly. Hold the muscle, the muscle bulk in your hand. This is the injection for corrugator. Go deep here and superficial when you're going in the superficial head. For crow's feet, inject outside near the lateral orbital rim, around 1.5 to 2 centimeters away from the lateral canthal angle. Avoid zygomaticus major muscle also. You can either take 3 points or 2 points injections in the crow's feet. The contraction of lateral orbicularis fibers, zygomaticus and rhizorius muscle produce this. So 3 to 4 injection sites of 2.5 to 5 units of Botox are helpful. Go subcutaneous over the orbicularis muscle and inject. Always raise a bleb. It is helpful to raise a bleb and form that Botox bleb over the muscle. When you're injecting in corrugator, be bevel up, and for blepharospasm also, when injecting in the lids, then stay bevel down, like go in, rotate your syringe and go bevel down. For forehead lines, the contraction of frontalis muscle gives forehead lines, and 4 to 8 evenly placed sites 2 to 3 centimeters above the orbital rim are chosen. The botulinum toxin, if spreads down, can cause ptosis. So around 2 centimeters, 2 finger breadths away above the your eyebrow, you should mark the points. And the diffusion circle of Botox, according to the reconstitution you have made, it is around the 2.5 centimeters diameter. So must place the injection sites like this. This is a small video showing. Don't go laterally. You might cause a spoke eyebrow. Usually inject 1 to 2 units per site. Eyebrow is a dynamic structure because it has the elevators and the depressors. So if you inject here more, this thing will be taken up and a spoke eyebrow deformity will be there. If you inject here more, the eyebrow will be flattened. So the dynamic thing between the muscles, it plays role between the elevators and depressors. Inject carefully. This is just to show that eyebrow actually is very important for facial beauty. So this line from ala of nose to the center of the brow, stay medial to it, else you might cause any of these. So these are few patients who have been injected for crow's feet, like whole upper face Botox has been done. So see, the crow's feet have decreased here. For bunny lines, hold the muscle again similarly. Inject. So if when you inject for crow's feet, if you injected more here and you have not done here, you might cause a chipmunk face. The face goes medially little and it enlarges here. So the chipmunk face is created. For bunny lines, avoid injections into elevators of upper lip. Perioral, dynamic muscle actions associated with eating, drinking, speaking and smiling may be impaired. So cautious approach in this area. Take smaller doses initially. Do not inject very deep and inject in the depressor anguli oris. Don't go to labii inferioris. Treat conservatively, inject symmetrically, avoid midline of upper lip and stay within 5 millimeters from the vermilion border. Platysmal band, similarly, we can inject Botox in small doses at the multiple sites.
Shilpa,
last slide, ma'am. Okay. So for masseter hypertrophy, this is the last slide. Mark, I think we can take up this separately, how to mark and everything. Go deep into the masseter muscle and inject at various sites. So this is about. Thank you so much. Any
Thank you,
questions on both of
Shilpa,
us?
for the very nice